Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into, well, a place you've definitely heard of, Silicon Valley.
The heart of global tech, really.
Exactly. We've looked at a bunch of sources to figure out, where it came from, how it grew, and what's happening there now, especially with AI.
Quite a story.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Silicon Valley. It's more than just a physical place, right? It's almost a code word for high tech.
Geographically, we're talking Northern California, the southern end of the San Francisco Bay Area, mostly the Santa Clara Valley.
Right, places like Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Palo Alto, those are the classic names.
And Menlo Park. Plus the bigger cities, San Jose, Cupertino, Santa Clara, they're all part of the mix.
And the economic impact is just
Well,
staggering.
the San Jose metro area, it ranks, incredibly high globally for GDP per capita, right up there with places like Zurich and Oslo.
Wow.
And think about this. Back in June 2021, it had the most homes valued over $1 million anywhere in the U.S. That tells you something about the concentration of wealth.
It's not just wealth, it's corporate power, too. Home to headquarters for, over 30 Fortune 1000 companies?
Yeah, and thousands upon thousands of startups.
You've got the giants, Apple, Alphabet, Google, Meta, Facebook, Intel, NVIDIA, Adobe. The list just goes on.
It really does. And the venture capital, about a third of all VC money in the U.S. ends up there. It's the startup ecosystem.
But it wasn't always like this. It's funny to think, before all the silicon and software, it had a completely different nickname.
The Valley of Heart's Delight.
Yeah, because it was all orchards, the world's biggest fruit-producing region. Quite the transformation.
It really was. And understanding that shift means looking at, a perfect storm of factors.
Okay, like what? Our sources seem to highlight a few key things.
Right. You've got the brilliant minds coming out of the local universities, especially Stanford. You've got a growing pool of venture capital ready to bet on new ideas. Then there's a government regulatory environment that was, let's say, pretty permissive towards innovation. And crucially, steady, significant spending from the U.S. Department of Defense.
Stanford seems to pop up again and again in the early days. Frederick Terman, the dean of engineering there.
He was instrumental. Starting around 1946, he really pushed faculty and grads to, start their own companies.
And he didn't just encourage it, he actively built infrastructure for it, like the Stanford Industrial Park.
Exactly, in 1951. Basically leasing university land to tech companies. Hewlett-Packard started there.
Right, the famous HP garage in Palo Alto, often called the birthplace of Silicon Valley.
It's a powerful symbol. But Terman's idea wasn't just about real estate.
What was so special about his approach? It feels like more than just luck.
It was definitely deliberate. Terman fostered this deep connection, this back and forth between the university and industry. The Industrial Park was meant to be a place where research and, real-world application could meet.
Like a feedback loop.
Precisely. University research sparks new tech, startups commercialize it, successful companies then reinvest in the university. Very forward-thinking for the time.
And this was all happening against a backdrop of supportive national policies too, right? Things like the Revenue Act of 1921, the Small Business Administration later on.
Yeah, those provided a sort of financial framework. But California had its own unique thing going on, legally speaking.
What was that?
It was about non-compete clauses. California law generally didn't uphold them strongly.
So if you left a company.
You could pretty much take your knowledge and skills and go work for a competitor, or, crucially, start your own company based on what you knew.
So ideas spread much faster.
Much faster. It really fueled innovation and churn, unlike, say, Route 128 in Massachusetts, another tech hub back then, which had stricter non-competes. That mobility was a huge advantage.
And we mentioned the military spending. Moffett Field seems key.
Very key. Started in the 31 for the Navy, later became NASA Ames Research Center, a huge R&D presence.
So companies sprang up to serve the Navy and later the aerospace industry, like Lockheed.
Right. It created this massive demand for advanced technology and specialized skills. It wasn't just the money, it was the concentration of smart people working on really hard problems, often with that national defense focus, providing, a shared goal.
Okay, so we have the universities, the VC, the legal environment, the military contracts. Then comes the actual silicon.
Enter William Shockley, co-inventor of the transistor. He moves to Mountain View in 1956, starts Shockley Semiconductor Laboratory, his big bet. Silicon transistors, not germanium, which was common then.
And he wasn't the easiest guy to work for, apparently.
No, famously difficult, which led directly to another foundational moment, the traitorous eight.
Ah, yes. The story goes they couldn't work with him and left to start their own thing.
Exactly. 8 brilliant researchers, including Robert Noyce and Gordon Moore, who would later found Intel. They left Shockley to form Fairchild Semiconductor.
And that wasn't just changing jobs, was it? It felt like a cultural shift.
It really symbolized a move away from hierarchy towards a more, well, collaborative risk-taking approach, betting on themselves. It became part of the Valley's DNA.
And Fairchild was where the really big breakthrough happened.
Yes, Robert Noyce at Fairchild invented the monolithic integrated circuit, the IC chip, in 1959.
Monolithic, meaning all on one piece.
All on one piece of silicon. Instead of wiring individual components together, you could etch an entire circuit onto a single chip. Miniaturization, reliability, cost, it changed everything.
That paved the way for, well, everything digital, basically.
Pretty much. Then came MOS technology, metal oxide semiconductor, allowing even denser circuits with lower power needs. General Microelectronics made the first commercial one in '64.
And from there, Intel comes back into the picture.
Right. With the first single-chip microprocessor, the Intel 4004 in 1971, designed by Federico Fagan and his team, then the 8080 in '74, which really powered the first wave of microcomputers.
So the hardware is exploding, but at the same time, the software side, the networking side, is also starting right there.
Absolutely. ARPANET, the Internet's precursor, starts development in '66. Department of Defense funding again, with California universities, including Stanford, playing a huge role.
JCR Licklider's vision of connected computers.
That was the dream. And the Stanford Research Institute, SRI, actually operated one of the very first 4 ARPANET nodes back in 1969.
It's amazing how these threads were developing in parallel in the same place.
And they fed each other. Better chips meant more powerful computers for networks. The collaborative culture helped researchers build on each other's work for ARPANET.
Then comes the money, formalized. Venture capital firms setting up shop on Sand Hill Road in the early 70s. Kleiner Perkins, Sequoia.
Those names became legendary. They weren't just banks. They understood tech, they took risks, they nurtured startups.
And Apple's IPO in 1980 just poured gasoline on the fire.
Oh yeah. It showed the potential for astronomical returns. Suddenly, everyone wanted to invest in the next Apple. More money flowed in, fueling more innovation.
Even specialized banks emerged, like Silicon Valley Bank in '83, catering specifically to startups.
Right. They understood the unique financial needs, the risks involved. Though its recent collapse is a stark reminder that even pillars of the ecosystem aren't immune to trouble.
And it wasn't just big corporations and VCs driving this. There was a grassroots movement, too.
Definitely. The Homebrew Computer Club in the mid-'70s.
Yeah.
That's where hobbyists and geeks gathered, shared designs, code, pure passion for personal computing.
And where Wozniak and Jobs got the inspiration for the Apple I.
That's the story. It shows that bottom-up innovation was just as vital. And you can't forget Xerox PRC.
Ah, PRC. Famous for inventing incredible stuff that Xerox itself didn't fully capitalize on.
Right. The graphical user interface, GUI, Ethernet, the laser printer, PostScript, revolutionary tech. The people who worked there then left and spread out.
They went on to found or influence companies like 3Com, Adobe, Apple, Microsoft.
Exactly. It shows how ideas can diffuse, even if the originating company doesn't capture all the value. Innovation leaking out in a good way.
It's this constant cycle, even after the dot-com crash around 2001.
You saw the PayPal mafia emerge. Former PayPal folks founding or funding the next wave, LinkedIn, YouTube, Yelp.
So the pattern repeats. Success spins off new ventures, new ideas, and the patents keep coming. It's still a major R&D hub.
That adaptability is crucial. It's weathered downturns, tech shifts. It keeps reinventing itself because the core ingredients are still there. Talent, capital, research institutions, that entrepreneurial spirit.
So looking at today, the Bay Area and Silicon Valley within it is still the densest cluster of tech companies in the U.S.
Still the highest concentration of tech workers, highest average tech salaries too.
And the San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara area still leads in millionaires and billionaires per capita, even if VC is spreading out a bit now.
Right. And you even see old school industries like car manufacturers setting up offices there now. They know they need to be part of that ecosystem to tap into the innovation.
But that success comes with serious challenges. Wealth inequality is a massive issue there.
Huge. A small percentage holds so much wealth, while the cost of living is astronomical, pushing many people, even those with decent jobs, into financial hardship. It's not the simple definition of poverty, but it's a real struggle.
A complex side effect of that concentrated success, and the big HQs are still there. Adobe, Google, Apple, Intel, Meta, NVIDIA, Tesla, Zoom. the list is still dominant.
Absolutely. Which brings us to the next big wave, artificial intelligence.
AI. It feels like Silicon Valley is ground zero for this too. Things like ChatGPT emerging.
Yeah.
It feels like another potential earthquake.
It really does. And all those factors we talked about, the talent pool, the universities like Stanford and Berkeley, the VCs looking for the next big thing, they're all primed for AI.
So the same engine that drove microprocessors and the internet is now driving AI development.
It seems that way. While our sources don't list every single AI project, it's undeniable that the Valley is maybe the global hub for AI research development funding.
You see it in machine learning, computer vision, natural language processing.
And applying AI across every industry imaginable. That concentration of expertise and funding just creates this incredibly fertile ground for breakthroughs.
It's that same relentless drive for innovation, that entrepreneurial DNA pushing AI forward there now.
It really is. Almost every huge tech shift in the last 50, 60 years has deep roots in that relatively small patch of California.
So when you, the listener, think about Silicon Valley, it's a story about how innovation happens, the mix of research, money, culture, timing.
Exactly. And as we watch AI unfold, it's worth thinking about that balance. The incredible speed of progress versus the societal impacts, the questions it raises.
How will the Valley navigate this transformation? And maybe the most interesting question, what's next? What's the next silicon, the next foundational tech that might emerge from there?
It's definitely something to ponder. The story is far from over.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.